name's Rebecca. My best friend has CP. She was going to join me up here today, but she decided to be the only girl in the wheelchair to go to the yoga panel. So that's where she is. I just wanted to say I think it's really brave of all of you guys to stand up here, especially with your invisible disabilities, because people don't see those. Like, I rented a wheelchair for her today because she can't walk very well. And people are being really nice to her, which is weird. Like, everyone wants to sit and talk with her, and that's great. But I wasn't aware that the Javits Center did that. Like, I didn't see it anywhere on the Comic-Con page. When we got our tickets, I wasn't aware that they had special provisions for people with disabilities. Neither was she. We found out about that here on Friday. And Friday, all the wheelchairs were gone, so we couldn't get a wheelchair for her, and she kept falling over, which is really embarrassing for her. So I'm just wondering if there are plans in the future to maybe put a disclaimer or something on the page so that we know.
So to respond to that question, there's this law across the United States that's called the American with Disabilities Act. Everyone should look it up. And it requires that a person has a disability and they need assistance at places like events and stuff like that, or places like restaurants, stuff like that. They have to accommodate it as best they can to make it as accessible as they can. And that's important to know. A lot of people still don't know about it, even though the bill was passed into law back in 1990. Another thing I'll point out is New York Comic Con every year they send out a survey, and they also post it on their site. They'll probably go up in like a week or two, maybe even tomorrow, for all I know. But a feedback survey about the convention as a whole. Fill out that survey. They listen. They take that input. It's so important. They'll put down the highlights of your con. Put down the things that made your con good. Things that you would change. That feedback, it really makes a difference, and those are things that they listen to. And a good example would be last year, people were complaining about places to eat. So the New York Comic Con team, they put together a food guide for places in the area, and that's huge because I've never seen that. I've been attending New York Comic Con since the 4th year. And I have never seen that at New York Comic Con, and I think that's incredible and super useful. And it was something that really comes down to just common sense, and sometimes common sense isn't as common. We just have to point it out because we don't think about it sometimes.
Last thing, I'll talk to New York Comic Con when they do their tickets, when you order tickets, we'll make a suggestion to put if that person needs a wheelchair or not. That way they know how many they need for each person.
Awesome. There's also so I'll also point out there is a link on their site that says medical application, medical badge, medical sticker application, and you can email them ahead of time, and they'll help you along with that.
By the way, I love your Wonder Woman shirt.
I am. I'm a mother. So that right there says it all. You know what? I'm speaking both to the panel and to the parents in the audience, and how you might be able to be helpful to your children who are slightly different, I'd like to be able to say. I was chair in our town what was called the Special Ed PTA. It's a child group. And what we did was we made sure by being very progressive parents and assertive parents in our community.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
That we let people know in our community that our children really observed their differences and they really lived their differences. They didn't want to go to school and be one way and come home and be another, because it really didn't help them and challenge them to be able to coexist in what we call a normal society. So I'd like to be able to say that I'm very familiar with a lot that everybody did, because I have a son walking around here who's Michael Myers, and who also is 19, and he started coming here when he was 12. And he does not have a lot of friends who cosplay, but he's very secure in his cosplay. He will stand alone and walk around because he knows that's part of him, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think that's part of it too. You know, it's something you should be proud of, your creativity. And so moving forward, now that my son is out of that school situation, I'm chair of the Council on Disabilities in our town. And I'd like people to be very aware of the differences that we all live with. And they're very good things to have. Our society would not be so successful without having so many advantages in our creativity. So I think everybody here does not have a disability, and I think you should change the name of the panel, because I think it has to do with finding, as my son says, your normies. And he would love all of you, so maybe he'll meet you later. But I'd really like to say, I think Comic-Con has come a long way, and I think it has helped the public. So thank you for the airtime.
Thank you.
I just want to point out that, as you just mentioned, you know, get involved with your community. Libraries, now a big trend in libraries is organizing comic book and Comic-Con related events. Get involved. Find out lists of information of comic books that have disability representation in it, because that list, it's not as large as it needs to be, or it should be, but there are still comics out there with representation in it. There's my personal favorite comic, Lock and Key. There's a whole single issue of it that was from there's a character there with a developmental disability. He can't talk, but for one issue of it, it took a side story, and it showed all the same events happening through his eyes and how he's seen it and how he perceived it, and it's really, really cool to see that kind of representation in comics. And you know, sometimes getting that kind of information out there into the public. You know, public libraries, free resource. You know, schools, free resources. You know, colleges, you know, bringing it up at the different programs that colleges have. You know, those are all places that you can go and you know, talk about these things and become involved.
Any last words you guys like to say before we wrap it up? Any last words, Nathan? I understand that it's super hard to come out here when you have a disability or when you're in a wheelchair or anything. And I understand that not everybody understands the plights of someone with a disability. If you're somebody that considers yourself somebody that does not have a disability, I want you to be a little bit more cautious about the things you say around other people, because I met someone on the show floor who was in a wheelchair, who has told me, yeah, someone just told me to get out of my way, cripple. That's not cool. This is a place of acceptance. So if you don't have a disability, you need to learn how to accept people that are different from you, because not everybody can be the same.
If ever you see something, you know, that's not right, speak up, say something. Use it as an opportunity to inform that person. And the other thing that I'm going to say is, if you're going through something, don't be afraid to reach out for help. When I met Nancy, I was going through an abusive relationship. You rarely hear about guys going through abusive relationships, but it happens, and it's there, and it happens a lot more frequently than people think and realize. You know, you don't hear about perspectives on mental as often from guys going through battling depression or mental health issues, because we live in a society where we're taught, you know, that we aren't allowed to break, you know, the norms. But my words to everyone out here is challenge, those norms, break those boundaries, and get word out. We can create change if we all work together and spread awareness.
All right, one last thing. I want to piggyback on what Joseph said. I've also been in several abusive relationships where my partner was emotionally, because they knew I was like sensitive and a little bit like unsure of myself at times, so they would play on that and like use that against me, and like because when you're in a long-term relationship, you think, oh well, maybe we'll work things out, and then you realize later that it's like healthier for you to not be with that person because they're actually holding you back from being yourself. Like last year in the panel, I was in a relationship I'm no longer in, but she was like doing everything in her power to try to get me not to come here, and like she couldn't come here all the days, and the days I was here she was like blowing up my phone, and like anyway, long story short, don't let those things people like that hold you back. If somebody is unhealthy for you, you need to separate yourself, because you don't want to get stuck in that position. And the last thing, I'm also, as I said, I don't know if I stated before, I'm also a professional photographer. We don't have a slideshow going this year, but I'm hoping next year we'll get a slideshow going of all the cosplayers with disabilities that I've caught around the convention. Every time I'm around, I take pictures.
And with the slideshow would come image descriptions for the visually impaired.
Right. So if anybody who's here wants to take pictures, please come find me. I'm not going anywhere. So I can create a nice slideshow to show off for futures, and so we have like a press kit to send to other events and other cons all around the country, and we're going to try and spread this as far as we can. So thank you all for coming. Please give yourselves a round.
Thank you. It's hard for me to finish that after that statement you made. Wow. Let me just say, you guys are such an amazing audience. You guys took the time to be here, to listen to us, what we had to say. So I just want to say thank you, all of you. God, 3 years we've been doing this already together. 3 years. And we're going to keep going until we grow old or something, right?